There's two places where I see people struggle is when it gets to the plateau, because business always has plateaus. Even with Facebook growth, it'll go up, plateau, and up, plateau. And I have learned now when it's in the plateau, it doesn't mean to stop. It just means the plateau is to figure out where's the next path.
Welcome to the Millionaire Maker Show, a podcast helping entrepreneurs scale their businesses online to create more time, more money, more freedom, and more impact. Now, with over 20 years of business building, coaching, and consulting experience, here's your host, author, speaker, and creator of the Millionaire Maker Funnel, Lindsey Anderson.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Millionaire Maker Show. I am your host, Lindsey Anderson, and I'm really excited for today's episode. I have a very special guest for you, Miss Rachel Marie Martin. Rachel has been featured on the Today Show, NPR, the Huffington Post, Star, Tribune. She's been all over the place. She also has an extremely engaged and highly effective Facebook page, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking to Rachel about today. This was a really enlightening conversation about how to build an engaged community, how to really acknowledge people as individuals on social media to build that engaged community of followers that will continue to follow you through the years. She is the writer behind the site findingjoy.net and the author of Get Your Spark Back. It is a true pleasure to interview Rachel on today's podcast. But before we get to that, I want to make sure that you head over to lindseyAnderson.live and get signed up for my upcoming masterclass, the September Sales Surge. During this action-packed masterclass, I'll be sharing with you my 4-week action plan for record sales this fall. Come to the masterclass and leave with my step-by-step blueprint that will help you build your audience, nail your sales system, and close more clients now and into the fall. Time is of the essence. You have about 4 weeks here in order to get your systems ready to hit September. Once Labor Day hits, people are ready to invest and buy high-ticket services. And so you want to prepare now, and that's exactly what the September Sales Surge Masterclass is all about. Head over to lindseyAnderson.live and get signed up for that masterclass. Now, let's hop into my interview with Rachel Marie Martin. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Millionaire Maker Show. I'm so excited to welcome today's guest, Miss Rachel Marie Martin. Rachel, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here to share with us so many valuable things. I can't wait for this interview. Welcome.
I'm super excited to be here. I know we were talking prior to the interview and we're like, we should just hit record. So here we are.
We have a lot to talk about.
We do.
So first of all, what I want to bring up is you have a quote that has 20 million views.
Right.
Is that
That's
right?
our best guess. Yeah.
Best guess. So
I think
this
it's
was posted before we tell everybody what this amazing quote was, where you've been
Okay.
requoted.
Okay.
Was this posted on all social media platforms?
No, it just started it was Facebook only originally. And I'm telling you, it's been requoted. People have made it added their, left my name, added their tagline. Some people have not left my name on it. And then people will be like, hey, Rachel, it's on there. Somebody made it into a letterboard type thing when that was trendy. And that's still out there somewhere. So, yeah.
And when you posted this, we're still not going to tell them what it is yet. But
I know.
and when you posted this, like you were what? You were like came in from the kids, and you're like, I'm inspired, so I'm going to write this. Or like, where did this quote come from for you?
So it actually came from a really hard place in life. It was the day that I went through a tough time with my oldest son where we went through this estrangement. And this was the day that he decided, well, it ended up that he was going to stay in Minnesota, live with his dad, and I was going to live in Tennessee, which is about 1,000 miles. And it's like nobody expects those hard things. I always say nobody put, it'd be great. I want to get divorced when I'm 40 in their yearbook. And yet we all have this stuff. And so I had this moment and I was devastated as a mom. And as I'm processing everything, my other kids, I can hear them in the background. And I just knew, like, I gotta figure this out. Somehow, I have to keep going. I can't just say, "Okay, game over."
That's tough. I feel for you there. That must be really painful. Okay, so you came in and wrote a post.
I did. Actually, I sat out on the porch. It was in July, and it was muggy, and it was hot, and I always make these quotes because that's one of the things I say is my one of my superpowers, writing and writing quotes, writing how we feel. And I wrote, which I'll tell you the quote if we're
Tell us.
ready.
We're ready.
Sometimes you have to let go of the picture of what you thought life would be like and learn to find joy in the story you're actually living. And I put it initially on a graphic, like, I did it on PicMonkey with this person walking in the sand because I kept thinking, like, "Okay, that'll work." It's like they're moving forward. Put it on Facebook, and it has taken a life of its own, and it's been shared so many times and in so many places and by celebrities and by all these people, and everybody has that same moment. They come back, and it's that whatever their story was, there was something in it where they're like, "That's not what I thought it would be." And it's about that grit that we have as humans to keep going.
Well said. Well said. Wow. And so you're impressive. You've been on the Today Show. You've written several books. You have a new book even coming out. Can you share with us just a little bit like about your new book and what's happening there? What is it about?
Okay, my new book is Get Your Spark Back, and I mean, everybody's like, "I totally understand that book from the title," but it's really about how to find happiness and reignite your life. It's about that soul's journey, and I know that so many of us have get to this place in life where we're like, "Well, who am I now? What's next?" Or, "This isn't what I thought life is what I thought it would be like." And it's about the steps to reigniting your soul, to taking back your life, to living your life, like, with everything with all that zest and energy that we have, and being unapologetic about your story.
I love that. And that comes out in late August. Is that right?
It does, I'm very excited about it. I'm telling you, it took me 2 years to write because it's in your head for a long time, and then putting it down into paper and something concrete, that's a journey right there.
I love that. I love that. Now, one thing I'm really interested to talk to you about, Rachel, is you have really found a way to monetize Facebook only using an organic audience. That is a superpower in and of its own. Is
That's
that
the
right?
entrepreneur superpower. Yes, it it is. I never thought I would become that person. You look at your journey, you're like, "What are you known for in the entrepreneurial world?" And if someone would have said, "You'll be known as the gal who grew a Facebook page organically and Facebook pays you," I would have been like, "I don't know." But I actually have done that. I tell people all the time that I was an early adopter of Facebook pages. And prior to Facebook pages, I was on Twitter. That was where I found my people. That was where I connected. And then people said these pages is a new thing. And I did 2 things that I think, "Wow, that was cool." The first one was my very first post on Facebook, the page for Finding Joy was, "I guess I'm gonna give this Facebook thing a try," which, like, could it be any better at that point? Like, when you look back, like, I can't believe that was the very first thing I wrote. The second thing is I figured out how to hard code into my blog the Facebook like and share button. Before it was a plugin. I didn't have my WordPress blog then. This was on Blogspot. I just figured out, okay, how do I do this? Because I just knew there was something to it. So what I love about that is I'm really grateful for that person, that me years ago that was like, I'm just gonna give this thing a try. And there was the grit to try to figure it out because the thing with Facebook is there's a lot of people that will say Facebook is dead, dead. Like, I'd hear that for the last 10 years, and the person that would write that article would get a lot of traffic on Facebook for the article, which was debunking their own story. But for me, I was like, "You know what? No. Facebook needs an audience. They need people to come there. They're not gonna make it impossible for the creators." And so for me, it was just more of a puzzle. How do I adapt, overcome despite any algorithm changes? How do I use them to my advantage?
I love that. I love that. And Facebook is your main platform right now, is that right?
It is. I have my website, Finding Joy, like the hub, and then I use Facebook and I use Instagram. Every year I'm like, maybe I should keep growing Instagram. But Facebook takes it takes a lot of time. That's the thing about growth is, and which I've shared for years too. I've started Facebook groups too before, and I've actually had to shut them down. And if you do, that's not an easy process. We always think we're going to start, but I always ask people, what's your exit strategy with it? What's your goal for managing 10,000 people in the long haul and all of that? So I do spend most of my time on Facebook because that's where my audience is.
And that's really like the important part about social media actually
Mhm.
working is developing a community, talking with community members, and not just doing what I call like a content drop and run. Like you're obviously
Right.
not doing that.
No, and you can tell. I can remember in the early days when it was like, there was there was those plugins that could just feed your stuff everywhere, and it looked like the same everywhere, but it's not made for it. Like a Twitter social media update should look totally different than something you put on Facebook, which should look totally different than Instagram, which should look different than TikTok. But yet I would see it all there, and it came across as inauthentic. 'Cause you just know, oh, you're just drip feeding it in there and you're not responding. So instead of that, I rebelled, I would say, against what everybody else was doing and did my own thing. I was like, I am going to cultivate a page that is all about this audience, that is not about growing it really fast or seeing what we could do, but really about the audience. And that meant saying no to a lot of stuff. Meant saying no to, like, the link sharing. There was a time when you share this and I'll share that and you share this, and then I remember thinking, if we all do that, then what distinguishes us? Like, how do we stand out in a stream? And the other thing I remember thinking was, if you like CNN's page, you are not expecting CNN to be sharing Fox News on their feed because they're totally different. So I knew that I needed to keep that Finding Joy page. It needed to have its own brand so that people would know exactly who I was and what it was.
And so all of your just to be clear, all of your organic growth is only about the page. It's not about your personal profile as much. Or do you
No,
both of those in conjunction, just the page itself?
just the page itself. In the beginning, I will say because I've helped other people with their pages and growing pages. In the beginning, I definitely would share my content to my personal profile or in different places. But now I don't need to anymore. But now it's definitely only about that page, that entity out there.
That's really fantastic. So, in terms of what is your best couple of tips when someone is on Facebook and they're trying to build this audience and trying to get this organic reach? Can you give us some tips about people who are struggling out there with that problem?
Yeah, first you gotta know who your audience is. You have to know, is Facebook your place, first of all? Because I think back to, like, early, like, 2013 when Snapchat, was first starting, and it was like Sour Patch Kids. They only advertised on Snapchat because they knew their audience was there. They were not targeting middle-aged moms like me with their sour gummy candies. They knew they needed the kids. So first of all, I always say, is Facebook your place? And then if you're going to invest in it, you have to take the time. Like, you actually have to take the time to start responding, to create that community. Like, not, I loved your thing, just drop it in there. People know, like, that taking the time, the responding with the reply to the person where they get tagged when you respond, figuring out who shared something, going to that, thanking them so much for sharing, just that investment in it. And that's the number one thing. And it's also figuring out, when is your audience on? Like, for a while, I was helping a bodybuilder build a page, and his audience was completely opposite of Finding Joy. So if you took a one size fits all strategy and tried to use it for both, it wouldn't have worked. His audience wanted a workout in the morning and a live video and all of that. My audience, nah, they were moms getting their kids out to school. So I knew in the morning, like, a quick meme or a quote was better because they could see it, share, be inspired. And the meat, the heftier stuff was later in the day. So it's
I love
really
that.
trying and trial and error. Yeah.
And how many times I know I guarantee you hate this question because I hate it when people ask me this question, but what's the recommendation on
Right.
How often do I need to post, Rachel? Do tell.
I bet you already know my answer.
I do.
So I do get this answer. It depends on your audience. There are bloggers out there that write once a month, and they have a fantastic audience, and they go for it. And it's really what works for your audience. Develop a consistency. There is no right or wrong with it. I'm guessing there's people out there that post every 5 minutes, and if someone clicks and that's what they want, that'll be great. But it's really, to me, it's about consistency. It's about consistently showing up. You can't manage that page and be like, I'm just going to do this and then take 3 months off and then come back and wonder why it's not growing. It's really about being consistent. Like, I know that if I go to Target, it's open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. It's not going to open earlier unless it's a holiday, and it's not going to stay open later. And because of that, I know what to expect. And so it's the same with your page. You have to treat it like a business and then really value the people that are interacting. I know that everybody that comments is taking 30 seconds to a minute to 5 minutes out of their 24-hour window of time. And it would be foolish of me to just ignore it. Like, so a lot of times I just thank them. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. So thanks for being my friend for the last 10 years or something like that. And those small things make a huge difference.
Wow, that I love the way that you put that. So, we share this. We were talking about this in the green room before, which
Mhm.
is you were on the Today Show. And so my question was, how much did that affect your social media following?
So I don't even know. I'm sure I've gained some people from it. I think that media has a different purpose than we're going to grow our social media. We're going to sell a bunch of stuff. Media gives credibility. Media gives the credibility of now that I've been on the Today Show, pretty much most local networks see that clip. They're like, yes, you can come on because you can handle all of that. And it's that credibility, that Today Show credibility led me to speaking for the state of Arkansas for their Smart Women, Smart Money segment, which led to me speaking to the United States treasurers, all these treasurers from all these different states for their annual conference. So did the Today Show grow my social media? Maybe, but what it really did was it gave me a platform.
I love that. I feel the same way about my Netflix appearance.
Mhm.
Yeah, it grew it with high quality
Mhm.
customers. Maybe, maybe not. But the fact is, now that I can say Netflix, I can get
Right.
on any stage I want to get on. I can get on any podcast I want to get on because it's a really sexy hook.
It is. That and having the books, those are the things that I
Yes.
found people want. They want those attributes, which is so interesting is as much as media has progressed, there's still so much power in traditional almost television, whether it's streaming or that, or a physical book.
Yeah, that's really what's going to set you apart from the bots these days, right?
Yes, that is so true. That's so true. I will say that I do have to manage that on Facebook. That
Let's
takes
talk about
time.
let's get back to Facebook, but before I wanna just tell everybody why you were on the Today Show, just a little bit about that segment, how it was aired a couple of times, just so
Okay.
everybody understands.
So with my first book, Brave Art of Motherhood, I had a great publicity team, and because I have a good hook in general. I have many kids. I was a single mom. I got myself out of poverty, started a business, and then wrote a book, which like news media, they're looking for a hook. They're looking for an angle. They're looking for that, what I say is that underdog story. So I got to go on, I got to talk about specifically how I changed my finances, which for me, and I tell this to people all the time. For 15 years, the thing I was most afraid about anybody knowing in my story was my financial mess. I hid it, worked hard, wasn't going to talk about it. Then when I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to fix this, change my life. It's become one of the things I'm most passionate about talking about is how do women fix their finances. So I was like, okay, all right, universe, all right, God, that's kind of
Isn't that the way
ironic.
it goes? The thing you're
Yeah.
running from is the thing you should be
Yeah.
running towards every time.
Yes, I'm like, "Okay, I can talk about this." So I ended up on a panel for a whole segment and got to talk about my finances and got to share, and it went over really well. It was fantastic, and then about 6 weeks later, they email and they say, "Hey, we really liked your episode. Could we air it again?" And I'm like, "Sure. Yes, absolutely. You could air it as many times as you'd like." And they aired it the day after Christmas. And that one even got more traction. And I think it's probably because it's the day after Christmas. People are
Timing.
like, I spent so much money. And then there's someone talking about money.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing so much personal stuff with us today. Let's get back to Facebook though. I
Okay.
digress. Back to Facebook pages. So people will say, okay, I'm curious what your take on this is
All
like
right.
Facebook is aging out, right? It's
Right.
dying and all the new socials are coming online. What do you say to that?
I have heard that since Facebook has begun. So, my husband Dan and I, we had a tech podcast, like where we would talk about social media news, and we had it mid like 2015 to 2018, maybe, and one of the things that constantly that was the number one thing we'd hear. There was a new platform that was going to take over Facebook. It was like Ello or all these different things, and they don't exist anymore. Was I wise as a content creator to look at it to secure my name? Yes, because you just don't know. You don't know what's gonna take off. But Facebook, the idea that most people in the world use that as their starting launch point, that makes me feel like there's a little bit of solid ground there. Does Facebook or Meta have to constantly adapt? Yes, because otherwise they don't want to be Blockbuster. There's not any of those anymore. So I'm just aware of it. I'm aware of the platform. That's why I have the website still and the email list. So it's not like everything is right there. It's just the tool I use right now, and it's pretty effective.
And to Facebook's credit, they do continually make a lot of changes. You mentioned the monetization changes
Mhm.
they made recently. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it rolled out, I think, maybe a year and a half ago, but about a year ago, Facebook was like, "Hey, we're offering this. We'd like to pay our content creators." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know." And then I was talking with my husband Dan again, and he's, let's try it." And what ends up happening is it's blown me away. Now I have a very engaged community on Facebook. It's, again, a very all organic, and people just it's a conversation. I've cultivated that. So it wasn't like I was coming in with nothing at that point. And so Facebook now, once a month, they send me a check. And last year for taxes, I remember sitting with our tax person very proudly. It was almost like the first time Google ever paid me, handing over my form from Meta that because they paid me.
Yeah, they're making a lot of those changes.
They
So
are.
kudos to Facebook. They're trying to keep up. They obviously have a user base and they're aware that they need to they know who they're serving and they're making those changes. I want to go to the idea of these bots situation cuz I run a
Yes.
lot of ads. I have an agency where we run ads. I know bots are a huge problem for ads. You've mentioned bots as a problem. Talk to me about bots and the problems.
If I could get rid of those, that would
Oh,
make my day so much better, so much better.
what are
Like,
you seeing? How is it affecting you?
it's more, my bots are like, the ones that I deal with are, there's two types, and they're very frustrating. One is either it's a bot or some spammer that's decided to create another profile that looks like me, that messages the people on my page and says, congratulations, you've won $5,000 or something personal. And I know what I always remind myself is I'm tech savvy. I'm very Facebook savvy. I can see through, I know to look at the URL. I know to look that I have the check mark, I have the verified. But I can't assume that all the people that are coming in, if you're going back to the targets analogy, that are coming in know the same stuff. So it's my responsibility to create the safest place for them, which means there are times where I have to say, you know what, I'm really sorry that was a spammer, and then people get it at that point, but it's annoying because it takes up time. The second one is the people that decide to just comment spam, and I have to constantly do, like, block, delete, block, delete, block, delete, and I have other people that help me, but it's still a time thing. It's a real to me, it's no matter how many times I put in, "Please do not post comments or allow any things with these words," they'll get around it. And I guess instead of thinking again, I go back to that strategy I said in the beginning. It's just a speed bump. Just have to figure out how to get through this one, figure out what the next plan is going to be, what kind of weird video are you going to attach this time, and just deal with it and move forward.
Yes. Have you noticed an uptick with that since AI has become real popular recently, at the end of
Um,
24, or has it just been about the same as far as like those fan bots go?
I would say it's a trend. It's like a surge thing. It's like a wave. Like and maybe it's because we figure out, oh, I'll figure out this is the strategy. This is the person. Like, really, you're another person that has the same picture of some guy in the military and you're commenting. Like, I'm like, oh my God, come on. And whoever that guy is, my word, there's a lot of fake profiles with this picture. But I just figure out, I think it's you figure it out, we adapt, Facebook, Meta adapts because they need to know too. Like when all those people were making fake profiles, like I would report it. And so then I think they adapt and then everybody's constantly adapting. So it's just trying to stay one step ahead of it, which to me, that's just the way business is. So it's not a way to stop you and it's not a way for me to go, I'm done. It's just, okay, this is what we're dealing with in this department. Does it need to deter me from doing what I'm doing? No, I just need to figure out how to manage that.
Yeah, and I find that is a real mindset situation for and tell me if you agree with this, is
Mhm.
like when you're running a business, is you're not gonna get to a finish line where you're like, everything's taken care of and I can just go on vacation and there's no more problems. I
Right.
figured out it is like you just have to really enjoy the journey because it is just a puzzle every day, and that is like the game, and it
It
will
is.
always be the game.
And that's what we signed up for. The
Yes.
moment I decided to be an entrepreneur, I was deciding, you know what I like? I like games. I like
Yes.
puzzles. I like things thrown at me from left field, and I like the highs too and the lows, and that's what it is. It's like the myth of balance. Like, I'm gonna just find if I can just get everything and I can just have everything balanced. It's not balance, it's balancing. Give, take, give, take, give, take.
I love that.
But it's fun. You have to I go back to it sometimes when it's really frustrating and I ask myself, "Would do you see yourself working in corporate world doing that?" And there's no way. I'm way too much enjoying the free spirit and
Yeah, I
questioning
wanna be
things and
free.
trying
I
stuff.
wanna be free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with some spam bot.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this because I think you're going to have a real interesting perspective, and that is about being vulnerable online, showing
Okay.
being vulnerable. I don't know if you share much about your kids or anything like that, but can you speak to that? I know when I was on Netflix, like I felt, and a lot of my customers, they feel very exposed. And then if you're
Mhm.
vulnerable, then and you're sharing those, which is required because that's how people get to know you, is if you're a little
Right.
bit vulnerable and not buttoned up. But then too much vulnerable, not enough. Can you speak to have you struggled with that? Or are you just vulnerable as can be? Or what is that for you?
I would say my platform is built on vulnerability, on the authenticity, which is why it's scaled because when I really started sharing my writing on socials was when nobody knew what to do on social. We were like, "Oh, gotta keep it looking good and tight and all of that." And like the first thing I ever wrote that went viral was Dear Mom Who Feels Like She's Failing. So talk about being vulnerable. I was like, boy, I feel like I'm failing because some mom had written me in. A reader had said, I love what you write, but I feel like I'm failing. And this is where it goes to you got to know your audience. Is I didn't just blow her off. I thought, you know what? I actually remember thinking that's really interesting because I feel that way too. So I wrote her back this letter and then her email was anonymous. So then a friend of mine was, you should just publish it. And I did. But I had that like heart racing thing because it felt so raw. And on that post, I had put a picture of dirty dishes in my sink. And all these women were like, you are so brave. I cannot believe you shared those. I'm like, we all have dirty dishes. But I just remember thinking, if I can be truth in this world, if I can just cut through the chatter of expectations, and that doing that means being vulnerable. So I've shared my single mom journeys, that I've shared all of that. Now I've shared it from the perspective of me. I really tried to make it my story, not necessarily my kids' story, but my story, what I've been learning, how I've adapted, how I've dealt with my anxiety. Like, talk about being vulnerable. I mean, when I shared that, I thought, oh, I don't know. And then I realized that if you don't share it, then you have shame about it. And I wanted to break the culture of shame. I wanted to say, you know what, I may look like I've got it together, but sometimes I deal with this stuff. And what I found is it's created this very sacred space online for women in particular to say, you know what, I'm not alone. And they support each other and they keep like rising up. It's pretty awesome.
I love that. And the key was vulnerability and authenticity. I just want to double underline that.
Yeah, double underline.
And both, and both. Red.
Yeah. Don't do italic though. That's too
What is nobody likes that.
yeah, right.
What do you see as the future of Facebook and Facebook pages with AI or with anything else? What do you see in the future?
I think they're just gonna constantly adapt. I think that Zuckerberg and his team and Meta and all of that, like, I can look across my room right now, and there's that Oculus, and my kids love the Oculus, and I have always been an early adopter. I think the reason Meta keeps acquiring things, WhatsApp, Instagram, all of that, because I mean, I pay attention, I read stuff. It's because they recognize we can't think that we've got it figured out. Otherwise, they're gonna be MySpace and they're just gonna fade away and everyone's gonna remember when. I think that they're gonna keep adapting, and it's up to us as creators to keep adapting with it. And AI, people ask me that all the time, and I think that there's uses for it. But it's not it's being aware of it, understanding it. It's when we go, I don't like it, I don't wanna learn anything, that's
Mhm.
dangerous. I have to understand it. I have to use it. What can I use it for that would be where I can still write, I can be authentic, but is there something that it could help with my business that doesn't take away from my creativity and individuality? So, I'm all about learning.
I agree, and not hiding because it's here. It's here.
Yeah, it's
And
not
it's like
gonna go
like
away.
GPT is one field. Play around with it.
It's really not gonna go away, and I think
No.
that's the thing that people can fight against it and push against it, but then you're kinda left. I just wanna understand it. I want to be an early adopter of it. I want to know how to use it in my business, because otherwise, if I don't, somebody next to me will, and they're gonna ride off really fast.
Amen. Amen. Okay, here's my final question for you, Rachel.
Okay.
What is one thing you wish you would have known before you got started?
Boy, I think I wish I would have known how people exit, because I'm constantly wondering that as I'm approaching 50. I think and I've coached and I've trained many bloggers and entrepreneurs, and everyone's really good at a start, like getting into it. And there's two places where I see people struggle is when it gets to the plateau, because business always has plateaus. Even with Facebook growth, it'll go up, plateau, and up, plateau. And I have learned now when it's in the plateau, it doesn't mean to stop. It just means the plateau is to figure out where's the next path. And the other one is how does it scale? Like I still do wonder that. I built this brand, I built this identity, I built it where it's really I'm the voice behind it. And I'm constantly wondering, so how does it end? What's the end of the story? Or what's the next thing? And maybe I'm glad I don't know it, because the wondering it gives me stuff to think about.
It's the journey. So
It is.
I just have to point this out, which is I ask you what you wish you would have known before you started, and your answer was how it ended.
Right. I know. Isn't that funny?
That's like the best answer. But
I know, because I think people think what's funny is because I actually, having worked with so many people started. So many people had all this heart into it, and then it just kind of either faded away or they sold it or all of that. And and I think maybe it's the entrepreneurial journey is like, I'm so grateful, I hoped one day to write a book and then get to do it. So it's almost I'm just curious. And I think that's any business is nobody knows. So yeah,
I
kind
love
of cool.
that.
Mm.
I love that. All right, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. What a great conversation. I'm going to turn the time back over to you. Let the audience know how to find you, how to find your amazing Facebook page, and anything else you want us to know.
Okay, you can find me my website's findingjoy.net, and my Facebook page it's Finding Joy blog, but if you type in Finding Joy, you generally I pop up and my smiley face and a little blue check mark is right there, and yeah, just reach out to me there, connect with me, and yeah, I'm just so grateful, for this opportunity to talk to you, and I always remind people, like, for most of history, especially even women, we have wanted a voice, and now we have this amazing platform, and when you're in those days where you're like, "I don't know if this matters," trust me, it matters because for thousands of years, people have fought to get to this spot where we are right now, where we can use the internet to create and be beacons of light.
I love that. Thank you, Rachel. Really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you. It was super fun.
Thank you for listening to The Millionaire Maker Show with online business consultant and creator of the Millionaire Maker Funnel, Lindsey Anderson. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time.